Welcome back. We start off this segment in Ghana, where government will certify the value of gold exports as part of efforts to tighten controls on the sector to ensure the state receives the revenues it is due. Ghana, Africa's second largest gold miner after South Africa, earned $5.78 billion from exports of the metal last year, up 17.6% in 2016. Vice President Muhammadu Bawumia told a regional meeting on the oil and mining sectors that Ghana's previous administration had allowed companies to assay gold produced from their mines themselves. However, he said Ghanaian law required that the state-run precious minerals marketing company test and validate mineral production before export. The government was also considering passing legislation stating that at least 50% of Ghana's gold output will be refined locally within 5 years. And the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Project of the United States government officially winds down on March the 1st, 2018. After 4 years of the project under the Power Africa initiative, about 263,000 Nigerians received clean and reliable energy in the period. USAID's Director of Economic Growth and Environment, Rose Ann Cassie, shares some details about the program with Channel's TV business producer, Temple Ashaju.
This project focused partly on the institutional capacity, the human capacity, and then also on how to connect project development with finance markets. So working with financial institutions, including microfinance, and including other international partners who might be potentially available to fund projects in Nigeria, which in the end is how they financed multiple projects. So they looked at not only the Nigeria finance sector, but just more broadly, how could project developers gain access to finance to make these projects take off? And so it's a very early phase for the off-grid sector, and especially for mini-grids in Nigeria. So this creativity about how the communities and private sector can partner and how this financial equation can work. It's so important to see a couple of successful projects so that the consumer base understands what opportunity is there and how they can continue to find opportunity, how they can continue to build projects in different areas of Nigeria, how they can reach scale, and how they can be replicated. It's a very important time, and it's a very optimistic time.
Now that the project is wounded up, it says that access to finance, the funding was a major challenge that now needs to be worked on. Walk us through the experience that you had in this regard.
Well, access to finance is a challenge. Nigeria was in a recession last year when this project was in its full period of implementation, and so that's always a difficult environment, but the interest rates are very high, loan tenors are short, and so it's difficult for a project developer to go out to a bank, get a very expensive loan, and make the finances work to implement a project. So the REAP project worked with GIZ and with the EU, and they combined efforts, and the EU had invested in some of these mini grids, but then they also found a financing mechanism through what's called crowdsourcing. So it was a German organization where they, through a website, they get people to commit money on a loan basis through this institution. The institution finances the mini grid, and as people pay their power bills, the people who lent them the money, who invested in this mini grid, get paid back. So it's fairly common in some countries around the world that these crowdsourcing opportunities exist, where you or I as individuals could say, I believe in this project and I'm going to invest a small amount of money. They get hundreds of people to do that, and you've got a financing program that actually works well. That's just one interesting example, but it works, and it shows that there's not just one way to go about it. Things aren't going to be funded by donors forever. They're not going to be funded by government forever. There's very commercially viable opportunities, and so there's going to continue to be these creative approaches to find ways to get financing. When a project is financed, you provide power, people pay for the power, the financiers get paid back, and then it continues to grow. And so that's what we hope to see more of.
Is that the reason why you're then handing it over to CEDO?
No, it's not exactly a handover. CEDO has been working in parallel to the REAP project for a while. They're doing similar work with financial institutions. It's just that REAP's project is ending, and so they wanted to make sure that CEDAR continued to do some of the work with financial institutions just to continue this project, continue the progress with financial institutions. So CEDAR will also end sometime in the future. We're always hoping that that donor-funded projects can finish and then the private sector will just take on. But we may or may not be there yet. We continue to work with financial institutions and with project developers and with all the stakeholders in the sector. The idea is for it to be commercially viable, that if someone loans a project developer money, he builds a project, people get power, they pay for power, it just continues to finance itself. So that's our goal, is so that the donor money can cease to be needed. But for now, we know that it's necessary for certain components, and so we're happy to support that.
So on a final note, now that the project is now seemingly getting a commercial status, are there plans for it to really outlive the Trump administration? Because it is generally believed that the Power Africa is an initiative of the Obama administration.
It's not tied to any administration, so as long as it continues to achieve its goals and serve its purpose, I think it will extend. I have no idea to look into the future and predict what exactly is going to last for certain periods of time, but this isn't tied to any one administration. It's meant to develop the power sector across sub-Saharan Africa because in a very self-serving way, it's good for the United States to have a more economically viable continent. So the better the power sector does in Africa, the better the economic growth opportunities are more broadly. The more trade that can happen between the continents, the more agriculture can develop, the more stability on governance and social programs will develop. So it's not only about power. Power is a mechanism to get to more stability and more development so that there's better prosperity on the continent, which is good for everyone.
And in the world of oil, U.S. prices extended declines into a second day after industry data showed an increase in U.S. crude and gasoline stockpiles, with surging production in the country hampering OPEC attempts to end a global glut. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down 19 cents at $62.82 after falling 90 cents the previous session. On Tuesday, Brent crude contract fell 87 cents to close at $66.63 a barrel. U.S. crude stockpiles climbed last week as imports increased, while gasoline inventories climbed and distillate stocks were drawn down. And finally, to precious metal markets, gold prices were unchanged near a more than two-week low in early trade as the dollar held recent highs after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell vowed to prevent the economy from overheating while sticking with gradual rate rises. Spot gold was flat at $1,317 an ounce. Prices fell 1.1% and had touched an over two-week session low at $1,313 in the previous session. U.S. gold futures were up 0.1% at $1,319 per ounce. And that's a wrap on the program for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimizi Obi Iwago.